This is the very first T4 four-seater with a supercharger. Every once in a while, we get a project that teaches us something that we didn't know before. And this one was just something that blew my mind. You know, we've been building 427 strokers and putting superchargers on them for a long time in our two-seat models. And this particular buggy here is what I would consider to be at a disadvantage for a couple reasons. One, you've got a 2-into-1 exhaust. You know, one bank comes over, grabs the other bank, and then there's a single exit coming out the side. Number two, you're in a really, really tight engine compartment. Number three, we had to use a supercharger that was smaller sized than what we use on our two-seater. So for all those reasons, we were actually hopeful that we were gonna get to 800 horsepower on this buggy, and it blew 800 horsepower out of the water. A little backstory. So all the buggies that we've been building have a 2.9 liter Whipple on top of them, and they have dual 3-inch exhaust stainless coming all the way out the side. So because of that, you know, the setup should be really free flowing and it should work really well. Generally speaking, we're trying to hit 850 horsepower on pump gas with those engines, and on the dyno, on the rear tires, we're seeing somewhere about half of that. So a normal buggy that we see on the dyno with our two-seater might make 429, it might make 425, somewhere around there, and that's basically 850 horsepower. We've ran these engines on the engine dyno before we put them on the chassis dyno, and we can confirm that we're hitting those horsepower numbers. This particular buggy, on the very first lick, made 403 horsepower. That was with a lot of the timing removed. That was with a lot of extra fuel in the system. And basically we did one tune-up. And we blew our horsepower goal out of the water at 453 horsepower. Now we weren't done. We took another lick at this thing and we just tuned it up just a little bit more. And it ended up making 473 to the rear tire, which is somewhere around 940 horsepower. That blew our minds. So there's a lesson here about size of blowers and making sure that they match perfectly with the type of engine you're doing. And then I'll be honest with you, there's a certain aspect of this that doesn't really make a ton of sense, because this motor with that gas, with the horsepower that we were making on the boosted pressure that we were at, shouldn't have made 920 horsepower, but every once in a while you get a unicorn. Whenever Justin came to us, you know, he had already had a buggy in the past. So we've actually got a number of customers, I think 6 now, that have bought more than one buggy from us. And Justin bought a buggy back in 2020, which was called Crisis. Now, immediately we knew that Justin was a special guy. You know, like, he takes the buggy directly from here after running up and down the hill twice, goes and plays second in a competition, and then the next time we see it, he's got a 60-inch tractor tire tied behind it, and he's in a drag race in a mud pit. And, you know, he's just one of those guys. He's going to find the weak point. He's going to try to break it, you know. Justin is an awesome dude. He's a great candidate for this particular situation, because up until him, we didn't offer a supercharger for the T4 series 4-seat buggies. But because Justin has a lot of experience and he's worked with us before in the past, I agreed to do a supercharger on his buggy. Now, when we went to put a supercharger in here, we went to put the Whipple that we normally put in here, but the inlet on the Whipple was so far forward with the front radiator, it just wasn't going to work. Then we started looking at rear inlet superchargers from Whipple, and the rear inlet just wasn't going to work because of the way the chassis is. Fast forward, we called up Magnuson. They had a supercharger that they built for us, which takes the body of the supercharger and shifts it really far back in the chassis, and it's basically on a Corvette platform, and then allowed us to build a custom front accessory drive that's a truck / LS3 Camaro. And that allowed us to have plenty of room inside so that we could put our intake tube on. Now, we got the supercharger, We put it on. We had to do a little bit of custom fab here and there, but then we used our 3D scanner. We scanned the inside of the bay and we were able to 3D print an intake tube to go on it. And honestly, this is one of the nicest installations I've seen. It just flows perfectly, and obviously that 3D printed intake makes a ton of power. To keep the supercharger cool, we wanted to make sure that we had a large intercooler. And I really like the design that we do on our two-seaters. Basically, we've got a fan, then we've got the radiator, and then we've got the intercooler out front. It kind of tidies everything up and makes it so that you don't have to have extra fans. So we put the intercooler right here in the front, and it actually bolts on with these custom laser cut CNC press broke brackets and pulls air through the intercooler, through the radiator and out to the motor. And so far, our intake temperatures have been really fair with this setup. When Justin bought his buggy back in 2020, he actually bought some spare parts. Now, he had some spare knuckles and some spare axle shafts and things, and he called me up and said, hey man, I really want a four-seater, but I want to be able to use some of these parts that I didn't get to use on my last buggy because they never broke, and I want to put them into this buggy. So we were able to do that because these were some of the parts that we had manufactured originally for our buggy. So if you look, we've got super kingpin, knuckles, and high steer arms, and inside we've got 40 spline big bell RCVs. Justin wanted to make sure that his buggy was really comfortable for him and his family, so he went to these really nice PRP seats, and they really look good inside this buggy. I love the way the black flows with the really nice stitching. We also have this sea decking inside here. This sea decking is really nice and comes standard on all of our 24 models moving forward. It gives you a lot more grip. It keeps the sound down, keeps it from rattling and all that stuff, and keeps your feet cool. We've also got the heated seats inside here. We've got the rear steer. We've got the tilt column as always, and the pedals and everything moves so anybody can drive. And with this thing having Hydro Boost, you know, it's something that's really nice because, you know, if Justin wants to let his wife drive or anything like that, the brakes are really good in this buggy. The steering's really good in the buggy. The gas is really responsive, and it drives like a regular vehicle. One of the really cool things about the T4 series is with that exhaust coming 2 into 1, it's a really quiet buggy, so you don't have to have the headsets if you want to, you know, go four-wheeling or whatever. You don't have to worry about that extra noise. So whenever you don't buy the headsets in these buggies, we actually custom 3D print an insert that goes down inside where the radios would have been and blocks that spot off and gives you a spot to stash some things. Justin went for rear steer on the back of his buggy, just like most of the T4s that we're selling. They are 5 inches longer, so that rear steer really helps you maneuver in and out of different places. But, you know, Justin had all the parts to make this work. He had the axle shafts, he had the knuckles, he had all the stuff. So we were able to put this axle together with some of the parts that he had bought back in 2020. As you can see, the setup is really, really nice and really clean, and I'm telling you, this is a must. Justin is driving all the way from Oregon to come pick this buggy up. Now, the last time he picked his buggy up, he pulled up in the parking lot, took his buggy up and down the hill, and then took off straight for Oregon. But this time, he's going to come here and we're going to spend some time four-wheeling together. And Justin, I know you're watching this video right now. If you don't hurry up, I'm going to take this buggy out because this thing is nice. Ready? All right.
That's good.
So, the theme for this buggy has been the engine. I know you said something about the supercharger. This buggy has blown our expectations out of the water. So, it has made more horsepower than any other buggy that we've ever produced. with every rock that's on that hill hit me, I swear to God. That thing was bad to the bone. It sounds so good. God, I want one. That was awesome. It sounds amazing.